My girlfriend pretended to be rich to impress her friends, then tried to leech off me. I left her stranded. I'm 29, male, and I've always considered myself pretty level-headed. I'm the kind of guy who works hard, saves responsibly, and tries to keep drama to a minimum. That's probably why I was blindsided when my girlfriend of 2 years, someone I thought I knew inside out, pulled a stunt that left me questioning everything about our relationship. We'll call her G, and I met through mutual friends, and she seemed like the whole package, smart, charming, and driven. She told me she worked in marketing for a high-end boutique, and while her job didn't pay a fortune, she carried herself like someone who had her life together. That confidence was magnetic. I didn't care much about her income. I just liked her for who I thought she was. Things started off great. We'd have low-key date nights, splitting the bill most of the time, and she never came across as flashy or materialistic. But over the last year, things began to shift. G started posting more on social media, flaunting designer outfits, extravagant dinners, and weekends at fancy hotels. At first, I thought she'd just gotten a bonus or found good deals. But as the posts piled up, I started wondering how she was affording it all. One night, I casually asked, "How's work been treating you lately? You've been splurging a bit, huh?" She brushed it off with a laugh, saying, "Oh, it's nothing. Just treating myself after a tough month." I didn't push further. Relationships are built on trust, right? But something about it didn't sit well with me. It wasn't until a few months later, at a dinner with her friends, that things started to unravel. Her group, very polished, very chatty, spent most of the night gushing over G's luxurious lifestyle. "You're so lucky to have a boyfriend who spoils you," one of them said, winking at me. I nearly choked on my drink. I wasn't spoiling her. If anything, she'd been more secretive about her finances recently. G played along, laughing and adding, "Yeah, he's the best." The look she shot me felt more like a warning than gratitude. I didn't want to make a scene, so I stayed quiet. But on the drive home, I brought it up. "Why are your friends under the impression that I'm funding your lifestyle?" I asked. "Oh, they're just joking," she said, waving it off. "You know how girls talk." I wasn't convinced. Something about her tone felt rehearsed, like she'd been preparing that excuse. That night, I started paying closer attention to G's behavior. A week later, the truth came out in the most unexpected way. I got a call from my bank about an unusual charge on my credit card, a boutique store I'd never shopped at. My stomach dropped. I checked my wallet, and sure enough, my card was missing. When I confronted G, she didn't even try to deny it. "I was going to tell you," she said, looking sheepish. "I needed it for a few things. I figured you wouldn't mind." "Are you serious?" I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady. "You took my card without asking and used it for God knows what." She crossed her arms, her defensiveness kicking in. "You make more than me. What's the big deal? I was going to pay you back." That was the first crack in the foundation of our relationship. I took my card back, canceled it immediately, and made her promise never to touch my finances again. She apologized profusely, claiming it was a one-time mistake. I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. But that wasn't the end of it. Far from it. After that incident, I thought things might settle down. I'd laid down the law, and G promised to respect boundaries. But over the next few months, more red flags started popping up. She'd insist on expensive outings, claiming we deserved them after a stressful week. When I pushed back, suggesting more budget-friendly options, she'd pout or guilt-trip me. "Don't you care about making me happy?" she'd say, her voice dripping with entitlement. One time, she even tried to book a luxury vacation for the two of us, using my card information from memory. Luckily, I'd changed my card details after the boutique fiasco, so the charge didn't go through. When I confronted her, she acted like I was overreacting. "I thought it'd be a nice surprise," she exclaimed, feigning innocence. "You're being so uptight about this." That was strike two. The real breaking point came when I got an unexpected call from her landlord. Apparently, G had fallen behind on her rent, months behind. She'd listed me as an emergency contact, and now he was reaching out, assuming I'd be willing to cover for her. I was stunned. G had always presented herself as independent, someone who managed her finances responsibly. But here she was, not only lying to me, but expecting me to clean up her mess. When I confronted her about it, She broke down in tears. I didn't want you to think less of me, she sobbed. Work's been slow, and I didn't know how to tell you. I've been borrowing from friends to keep up appearances, but it's gotten out of hand. That confession hit me like a ton of bricks. Borrowing from friends? Keeping up appearances? I realized that the lavish lifestyle she'd been flaunting wasn't real. It was all smoke and mirrors to impress her social circle. And now she was drowning in debt because of it. I tried to be compassionate. I really did. I offered to help her figure out a budget, even suggested she sell some of the designer items she'd racked up to pay down her debts. But she wasn't interested in solutions. She just wanted me to bail her out. You can afford it, she said one night, her tone almost accusatory. If you really loved me, you'd help me get back on my feet. That was the last straw. A few days later, she invited me to a party at her friend's house. I wasn't in the mood, but I went anyway, hoping to salvage what was left of our relationship. The night started off uneventfully. Lots of small talk, laughter, and music. But then one of her friends pulled me aside. So, when are you buying G that new car she's been talking about? He asked, grinning like it was a done deal. I froze. What car? Oh, she didn't tell you, he said, suddenly looking awkward. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. When I confronted G about it, she doubled down on her entitlement. I was going to talk to you about it later, she said, as if that made it okay. You're so good with money, and I thought we could share it. It's not like you can't afford it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd not only lied about her financial situation, but was actively trying to manipulate me into funding her lifestyle. That night, I made up my mind. I was done. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I decided to plan my exit carefully. I wasn't going to let her guilt me into staying or twist the narrative to make herself the victim. Over the next few days, I quietly gathered my things from her apartment and moved them back to my place. I didn't say a word about it to her. Letting her think everything was fine gave me the time I needed to prepare for what was coming. The final blow came the following weekend. G had invited her friends over for a brunch at her place, on my dime as usual. She'd asked me to pay for catering, which I outright refused. If you want a fancy brunch, you'll have to figure it out yourself, I told her. That didn't stop her from going ahead with her plans, though. I later found out she'd begged her friends to pitch in, pretending it was a group effort. During the brunch, I sat back and watched as she basked in the attention of her friends, playing the role of the perfect hostess. It was nauseating. At one point, one of her friends joked about how lucky she was to have a boyfriend who supported her financially. G laughed along, but didn't bother to correct them. That was my cue. I stood up and cleared my throat. Actually, I think there's been a bit of a misunderstanding, I began, my voice steady but firm. All eyes turned to me, including G's, which were now wide with panic. For the past few months, G has been pretending to live this lavish lifestyle, but it's all been a lie, I continued. She's been borrowing money from friends, skipping rent, and even trying to use my credit card without permission. I'm done being her safety net. The room fell silent. G stammered, trying to salvage her image. That's not true. He's exaggerating. I wasn't having it. Check with her landlord if you don't believe me, I said, looking directly at her closest friend. Or better yet, ask to see her bank statements. That was the last thing I said before walking out. I left her there, surrounded by the people she'd been trying so desperately to impress, with her lies fully exposed. You'd think that would have been the end of it, but G wasn't done. Over the next few days, she bombarded me with texts and calls, swinging wildly between apologies, accusations, and pleas. She even showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door and demanding to talk. I ignored her. Eventually, she escalated her antics. She started telling our mutual friends that I'd abandoned her in her time of need. Some of them reached out, but once I explained the situation, they backed off. Most of them admitted they'd suspected something was off about G, but didn't want to say anything. The final straw came when she tried to drag my family into it. G called my mother, claiming I'd left her homeless and begging for money. Luckily, my mom saw through the act and told her to stop calling. After G's failed attempts to smear my name and exploit my family, I decided to take one final step to ensure she couldn't interfere in my life any further. I consulted a lawyer to understand my options. While her antics didn't warrant a legal case, I was advised to document everything, texts, calls, and any harassment, just in case. I also blocked her on every platform and warned my building's management about her showing up uninvited. For a while, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. How had I let things get so far? I genuinely cared about G, but in the end, she cared more about her image than our relationship. It wasn't just the lies or the entitlement. It was the blatant disregard for my trust and boundaries. That's what hurt the most. 1 week later, a mutual friend reached out to me with some updates. Apparently, G had been evicted from her apartment after months of unpaid rent. She'd moved in with one of her friends, likely someone who still believed her sob story. It didn't surprise me. People like G always find a way to shift the blame and avoid taking responsibility. Looking back, this whole ordeal taught me a lot about boundaries and the importance of truly knowing someone before investing in them emotionally or financially. G's manipulative behavior wasn't something that just appeared overnight. There had been warning signs, subtle at first, that I chose to ignore because I wanted to believe the best in her. The experience left me more cautious, but also more self-assured. I learned that standing up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable, is necessary. Letting someone take advantage of your kindness doesn't make you noble. It just enables their behavior. As for G, I'm sure she'll find her way out of the mess she created, whether through hard work or more manipulation. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. And there you have it, folks. If you've ever dealt with someone entitled, manipulative, or just downright exhausting, you know how freeing it feels to cut them out of your life. If you enjoyed this story, or if it made you feel better about your own relationship dramas, don't forget to subscribe. Who knows, the next story might be even juicier.